and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. For those who are present, if you have a noise-making device, would ask that you turn it to silent mode or off so as not to interfere with our electronic communications. We do not have any proclamations or presentations to make this morning, so we will turn to the public comment portion of our agenda. For those who have signed up to speak virtually or in person, remember that the time limit for comments is 2 minutes. And for those who are speaking in person, there is a modem on the podium so you can track your time. If you go beyond the 2-minute time limit, then the chair is required to ask you to conclude your remarks. So at this time, I'll ask the clerk to read the first presenter.
Virtually, we will have Debbie Detmer. Then we will have Carrie Brandon. Debbie Detmer.
That did not sound scary.
We are not hearing you.
Oh boy.
Why don't we,
Debbie, we will switch and come back to you. Now we will have Carrie Brandon. Carrie?
Good morning, commissioners. Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Carrie Brandon, do you need my address?
Yes, please.
450 East 2300 Road, Eudora, Kansas. In last week's meeting, when the Board of County Commissioners approved the amended Planning Commission bylaws, there were a lot of great job, congratulations, comments extended to the planning staff and the legal staff and the Planning Commission too. And although it is, I feel appropriate to give them, all of those individuals, credit for the time and attention they gave to amending and updating the Planning Commission bylaws since they had not even been reviewed for 39 years. I do want to make comment and point out and make the public aware that it was the citizens of Johnson County and Douglas County that were the ones that called out the county on non-compliant processes that brought attention to the fact that the Planning Commission appointed by you, the Board of County Commissioners, was not operating lawfully per Kansas state statutes and per your own bylaws. So it was the citizens that uncovered and pointed out to the county the issues at hand, which then in turn caused Chief Legal Counsel Peg Trent to spin up a bylaws meeting with the Planning Commission to go over things. Citizens were the ones that uncovered things and provided oversight on all of this on your behalf. And it's really the Board of County Commissioners' job to pay attention to Kansas state statutes, to appoint Planning Commission board members in a lawful manner in the correct ratio. I'm going to just quickly point out some of the things that, I don't even have time. I will put it into written comment, but there's a lot that is non-compliant. It's your job to make sure government is operating lawfully.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Now we will try Debbie Detmer. Debbie Detmer. Debbie, you might want to disconnect and then try to get back on. We are not understanding you. We will move on to in-person and then we will try to come back to you, Debbie. Thank you. Now we have in person, we will have Ben Hobart. Ben Hobart.
Ben Hobart, Westwood Hills. The truth never leaves us. It may be concealed, we may be deceived, but the truth is always there for those who exercise discernment. It is encouraging that Americans are becoming awake to the truth about the clot shots. In a recent survey of 1,500 parents of children under the age of 5, only 18% of parents said they would have their child take the clot shots right away. 38% said they would wait and see. Hopefully, these parents will become aware of the deceit of relative rather than absolute efficacy. Please recall, as shown on the chart next to me and below, that the absolute reduction in infectiousness for those aged 5 to 11 from the clot shots was only 2%. Given the significant known and unknown adverse effects of the clot shot, why would any parent subject their child to these risks with such limited efficacy of the clot shots? This week, the FDA brazenly authorized clot shot boosters for children 5 to 11 because the two-shot regimen wanes in effectiveness. Red flag. The FDA bypassed independent committee review of the booster authorization decision. Only a transitory alleged reduction of symptoms for a de minimis segment of this age group with the adverse events looming. Why? Follow the money. The mRNA delivery system, never perfected, is the golden calf of Big Pharma. Billions of dollars have already been realized by the hasty administration of the clot shots. Note, data from over 5,000 Walgreens stores indicate that for the week of April 30th through May 6, 2022, the unvaccinated had the lowest positivity rate of 18% of those requesting tests. The highest positivity rate was 31.3% for those who had 3 clot shot doses greater than 5 months ago. Is this evidence of antibody-dependent enhancement of viral replication and disease severity in the clot shot subjects? Educate yourself. Discern the truth. Do not be deceived. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Carol Dukak. Carol Dukak.
I'm Carol Duchok. I live in Overland.
I'm going to ask you to lower the microphone a little bit.
That better?
Yes.
Ah.
You're very soft-spoken, so.
No, actually, it's nice to have the whole table lowered for us short people. My name is Carol Duchok. I live in Overland Park. I attend Congregation Beth Torah, and I'm a member of the Good Faith Network Mental Health Action Team. As you know, Johnson County Mental Health Center will soon apply to be a certified community behavioral health center, also referred to as a CCBHC. Their Director of Operations spoke to you recently about the various service areas a CCBHC must provide, including crisis services. Johnson County does have several components of the required crisis services already established: co-responders, a crisis line, and mobile crisis teams. But Johnson County lacks the centerpiece in this system, crisis stabilization. Kansas state policy will require CCBHC to provide crisis stabilization, including both short-term crisis residential services and crisis intervention centers. Johnson County currently receives its crisis stabilization from RSI Incorporated in Wyandotte County, which is often at capacity. RSI can serve only about 28 people overnight. RSI has insufficient capacity to meet CCBHC requirements for crisis stabilization. In fiscal year 2021, RSI admitted over 400 clients, more than one per day, from Johnson County. Law enforcement told our research committee when RSI is full almost constantly, people in mental health crisis are taken to the ER or to jail. We understand county staff are beginning a planning process for the crisis center. We don't know who's convening and facilitating that group. We call on this commission to have the work group expedite the timeline for opening a crisis center to ensure that Johnson County is in alignment with CCBHC requirements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will try Debbie Detmer again online. Debbie Detmer. Debbie, we cannot understand you. Debbie, we will try this
Sorry.
again. We'll go through our current in-person speakers. Thank you. Now we will have Lisa Huppy. Lisa Huppy.
Lisa Huppy, 17535 Edgerton Road. The address is important. I live in rural Johnson County, always have. The citizens of Johnson County should be heard, of rural Johnson County should be heard, as they are the ones most highly impacted by the regulations that you've put in place for utility-scale solar facilities. The value of land is already being impacted. I personally know an individual who has decided against purchasing land and building a home in West Gardner once he gained knowledge of the possibility of utility-scale solar facility being put in there. This is not an anti-solar versus pro-solar issue with us. It is a desire to have safe and sustainable home ownership. We have the right, and the regulations you put in place will determine if that is possible. A 250-foot setback does not allow safe and sustainable home ownership, nor does putting a 2,000-acre utility-scale solar facility among over 200 homeowners. At your June 6th meeting to be held inconveniently again at 2 p.m. in the afternoon when working citizens can attend, please listen to the rural citizens that live in that area that you will impact. The people that show up have taken time off work to be there. Respect their words and listen to them. Please listen to them, not the out-of-state big money investors and people from out of state that don't live there, that only have monetary gain in mind. Respect the Planning Commission, respect the consultant you hired, respect the cities. The Johnson County, if Johnson County is even the right location for a utility-scale solar facility, which the consultant said maybe it's not, at least respect the fact that everybody is in agreement, except for you, apparently, that 1,000 acres is adequate and that a 2-mile buffer from cities should be in place. Please respect us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will have Richard Gall. Richard Gall.
Good morning. Richard Gall, 38400 West 183 Street, Edgerton, Kansas. Recently, my wife and I watched a program on TV. It was on public television, Channel 19, about global warming. And I'm telling you, anyone that watched that, if it didn't make them think about it, I don't know what it would take. Afterwards, we discussed how proud we would be to be a part of working at solving that problem, even though we're just a tiny bit of it. We're proud, hopefully, to be able to be part of working on taking care of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't know if I'll be back. Said that last time, right?
Now we have Jennifer Williams. Jennifer Williams.
My name is Jennifer Williams, and I live at 21993 Moonlight Road. Last week, the pastor said something about mental illness that was very important. He stated that mental illness improves whenever someone has a home. On the flip side of that, for the last 18 months, I've dealt with thousands of our residents, and hundreds of them who are suffering from mental illness because their homes are being threatened. Not only mental illness, but physical illness that results from that. When you have constitutional rights that are guaranteed your property ownership, and then you have the government that's supposed to be protecting those ownerships, threatening those rights, it puts you in a situation where you just want to give up and wonder, why does it even all matter? Please read the packets. 2 minutes isn't enough to talk about this, but the LA Times reported that corruption was at the root of homelessness in California, as it is in many other places, and most of that having to do with corruption and legislative giveaways by politicians to developers. And in this particular situation, what we have is Johnson County, through policy, handed Edgerton and North Point, a direct impact, a direct access to all of this land in our community by the unprecedented narrow corridor that you see in this packet here. Nowhere have you usually divided that off in a corridor like that. It doesn't make sense. It's not in your history, yet you handed that to people. And now, to add insult to injury, you're going to add a superhighway so North Point can have a connection from their Edgerton facilities to their Belton facilities, and you're going to possibly force the citizens to pay for that instead of letting them use the multi-million-dollar Homestead interchange that they've already paid for. I mean, can you imagine a program where a government forces rape victims to have to pay their perpetrator to be able to go along and rape more people? And that's exactly what you're doing to us out here. We have no protection. You are the body that's in place to protect us from Edgerton salesmen, as Donald Robert calls himself, and North Point and all of these developers that are coming in and stealing our community. And it's your policy that let them jump that road, and everyone in your planning and zoning department knew about that, yet they still divided it. So please help us. We need you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Stuart Curtright. Stuart Curtright.
Good morning, Stuart Curtright, 12938 Earnshaw Street, OPKS. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Good Faith Network's Ending Homelessness team. Last month, this board graciously voted to approve the creation of a housing coordinator role for Johnson County, and with the stated intent that it would serve all populations identified on the housing continuum from chronically homeless to cost-burdened homeowners. We are eager to see the position description for this role to better understand how it will be able to serve this broad spectrum of populations. It is a mistake to assume that addressing workforce affordable housing needs somehow has a cascading effect sufficiently to fully address the housing needs of the chronically homeless. Affordable housing issues and homelessness are different problems that require different solutions. The latest report from the subcommittee indicates that the housing coordinator role will develop and implement an overall housing policy and identify resources for all populations. But if the housing coordinator role will truly serve the needs of the chronically homeless population, the job description needs to include responsibilities specifically designed to address homelessness, including implementing strategic plans around housing first and coordination of homelessness services with other private and public sector agencies, as well as evaluating the impact of programs intended to end homelessness. Because of the breadth of need, many communities employ both a housing coordinator and a homelessness coordinator. In fact, Lawrence, Kansas, as a part of a joint resolution between the city and Douglas County to end homelessness, is currently working with KDADS to secure funding for a homelessness coordinator, as well as a technical assistant from true experts in the field of housing first. I ask that this commission to ensure that the housing coordinator role that you just approved truly serves the needs of the chronically homeless in order to begin solving this issue once and for all. We can't get to functional zero. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have Debbie Detmer that is called in on phone, so we will try Debbie Detmer.
Debbie, are you there?
Star 5 to unmute, Debbie. Debbie, try star 5 or try star 6. Debbie, again, we cannot understand you on your call.
Debbie, I'm going to, again, we cannot understand you at all. So I'm going to ask you to hold on. We will continue with our agenda, and if the technical issues are corrected and we can hear you, then we'll go back to you. So,
Chairman, we have actually completed our public speakers.
all right. Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment portion. There are 2 notes for the record. I am going to ask the clerk to read those.
The chairman noted for the record that he would sign the following: Administrative Resolution Number WD 22-019, enlarging the privately financed sewer district and provide for the assessments of all applicable fees, charges, and levies of the Consolidated Main Sewer District in the vicinity of 9031 Farley Street, and FY 2022 Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG, local government approval forms required to be submitted by nonprofit organizations applying for ESG funding. Johnson County Community Development is partnering with local homeless assistance agencies to submit an application for ESG funding for the state of Kansas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now move to our agenda. The clerk will please read the consent agenda items.
Item number 1, consider approving the April 28th, 2022 business session minutes. Item number 2, request for proposal, RFP number 2021-060. Consider authorizing a contract with Integrated Psychiatric Consultants, PA, for Certified Community Behavioral Health, CCBHC, primary care medical and psychiatric services at a cost not to exceed $2 million annually for a 1-year period with 4 additional 1-year renewal options, and authorize the reclassification of FY 2022 mental health reserves in the amount of $300,000. Item number 3, IFB number 2022-037. Consider authorizing a contract with Goddard and Son Roofing for the office roof replacement and warehouse sealant repairs at the election office facility for a total amount not to exceed $233,899 per invitation for bid, IFB number 2022-037. Item number 4, IFB number 2022-043. Consider authorizing a contract with Free State Logistics, LCC, for the purchase of shelf-stable food program for older adults in the amount not to exceed $500,000. And item number 5, Resolution number 031-22, consider adopting resolution number 031-22, exempting a certain portion of an outside area of county-owned property from the provisions of KSA 41-719D to allow the sale, possession, and consumption of alcoholic liquor and cereal malt beverages.
All right, thank you very much. Is there a commissioner who would like to have an item considered separately? Ms. O'Hara.
Just for the education of the public, I would like to have item 4 put on the action, please.
Okay, item 4 will be removed from consent. Okay. Is there anyone present who would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda? All right, if not, it's back before the commission. A motion would be in order. Ms. Allenbrand?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the consent agenda excluding item number 4.
Hanslick, second.
Allenbrand made the motion. Hanslick seconded the motion to approve the consent agenda absent item 4, which will be considered separately. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allenbrand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried. Back to item 4. Your question, Commissioner.
Yes, I just wanted the public to understand how this was being funded. Obviously, we were briefed last week, but just for the public to understand, and I believe that these were funds from the federal funding from 2021. And so if you just briefly go over that so that the public understands where this funding's coming from.
Ms. Leahy?
Good morning, Megan Leahy, Aging and Human Services. Yes, Commissioner, that is accurate. So in 2021, at the federal level, the ARPA Act was passed. So that's the American Recovery Plan.
Rescue.
Thank you. And so through that, there was a portion of funding that was routed through the Older Americans Act, which then passes down to local governments. So for us, it went to the state of Kansas and then individually to the area agencies on aging within Kansas. So that's one-time funds coming from the federal level, so we'll be using that to fund this project.
Okay, and are these funds, do they have a deadline on the use of the funds?
Yes. The deadline for the funds is September 30th of 2024. We do have one early deadline of June 30th of this year, and that's a state deadline where if we can do that, they will cover the local match for that. So we will be spending $270,000 of that by June 30th, which then will eliminate the county government having to provide that local match.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions? Is there anyone present who has a question about this item? All right, if not, it's back before the commission. A motion would be in order. Ms. Hanslick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to authorize a contract with Free State Logistics, LCC, for the purchase of shelf-stable food program for older adults in the amount not to exceed $500,000, IFB number 2022-043.
Alan Brand, second.
Hanslick made the motion. Allen Brand seconded the motion to authorize the contract as recommended. Any further questions or comments? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
Yes.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen Brand.
Alan Brand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 7 votes in favor. Motion carried.
Chairman, Debbie Detmer would like to try one
All
more
right.
time.
Okay, Ms. Detner, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can finally hear
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
I don't know what was happening, but thank you so much for keep trying. Okay, I am Debbie Detmer, a grandmother of 8 and a retired registered nurse. Can you still hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, these mRNA shots never were safe or effective. On May 10th, the New York Times reported that the House Democrats released and gave 2 reporters a report on congressional investigation into a emergent COVID vaccine manufacturing plant that made the J&J and the AstraZeneca jabs. They started having problems in February of 21. In March of 21, emergent officials notified the HHS about the mass contamination. The FDA still granted emergency leniency and followed the badly run plant to continue making millions of doses and giving these jabs of these safe and effective mRNA shots. In April of 21, the manufacturer admitted to federal officials that the 25 million of these safe and effective doses had been contaminated. It was finally ordered to close in November. You realize that the CDC and the FDA did nothing to protect the people. They continued to protect the drug companies. So knowing the report was coming out, they finally, in May 5th, strictly limited the J&J vaccine to people at higher risk. The merchant got $450 million before his contract was terminated, then received another $320 million in severance payment when his contract was ended for cause in November. They actually made more money by screwing up. This has to stop. This is effective. There is effective treatment, and fear is alive, and the truth will keep us safe and free. Pay attention. They are not safe and effective. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to the action agenda item, which is item number 6.
Consider approving the Johnson County Developmental Support Reserve Use Plan, including the creation of 7.5 FTE, and consider authorizing the reallocation and expenditure of fund balance reserves for FY 2022 for the Developmental Supports Fund in an amount not to exceed $700,000 for the first year of the plan.
Mr. Von Ahnen?
Morning, Chairman
You
Eiler.
gave us a completely thorough review last week, and you give us an
tighten
overview.
it
Have
up
there been
for
any changes?
Yes, indeed, sir. Good morning, Chairman Eilert and Commissioners. Chad Von Ahnen, Executive Director with Developmental Supports. Item before you is for 7.5 positions to meet critical and urgent needs for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. These are focused on services for case management, behavioral health crisis situations, and competitive employment. And just as a reminder, each of these services is available for people who are on the Kansas state waiting list for IDD services. As part of this plan, the JCDS Governing Board approved a plan to move to you to fund the first 5 years of these positions through our fund balance, which at year-end 2021 was $8.6 million, or 30%, with our target being 8 to 12%. Again, as the item says, and for 2022, we're requesting $700,000 of budget authority for these positions. And again, as a reminder, these positions will generate $180,000 annually based on current reimbursement rates. And so those rates could increase over time. We don't expect them to go down. We'll continue to monitor our financial situation, and if any changes are needed, we'd be glad to work with the county manager's office or budget office to do that. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you all have.
Mr. Von Ahnen, I think these are important positions that need to be filled. So thank you for that recommendation. Ms. O'Hara?
Obviously, we all want to help this population, but my concern is what is the plan to pay for this after 5 years? Because we're using our reserves to fund this, and then at the end of 5 years, what do we do? It concerns me. It's like, shouldn't we just include this in our overall budget so that we're not going to be driving off a cliff in 5 years?
Correct. You're right. These would have typically come as a request for additional resources through the budget process. The situation we found ourselves in with this reserve balance is trying to come up with a plan to draw that down. So the idea would be, we do see these as an ongoing and continuous need, but the reserve balance, we could draw it down for 5 years, and then these would move over to be county funded. But we do see a mix of revenue changes that could potentially offset some of that over time.
So basically, we are setting up a time bomb for our overall budget, because at the end of 5 years, then this is going to have to be, could be necessary to fund through the general fund.
Correct. That potential is there. Again, as I mentioned, with the changes in other revenues we have, we would continue to monitor that, and if there were any adjustments that need to be made at that point, we could do that out of the entire package of FTEs we have within the agency.
I'm just really uncomfortable with not having a long-range plan on how to finance this, and it's just like a family buying a house and saying that they're going to be using their savings to pay for the house payment for 5 years, and then hopefully in 5 years there will be another revenue stream. And that just really, I just don't feel comfortable putting this program in place if we don't have an ongoing budget plan for it.
Let me respond to that. I think the use of the word time bomb is a gross overstatement.
Yes.
All of our programs are planned ahead. We are on a 5-year budget cycle, so every year we have an opportunity to extend that for another year. And our process has been that we always do that. We include those considerations in our budget planning. And does the county manager have any other comment to make in that regard?
I was going to make a similar comment to you in that we do a 5-year forecast, and we're not going to wait till the 5th year to address that. So as you stated, we'll be working each year to adjust the plans.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Fast.
Yes, and you come back several times during the year. We adjust the budget. To say that we just fall off the cliff to 5 years doesn't weigh any government plans. We have 10 years of waiting lists, correct, to get on the state waiver, which is immoral, I think. It used to be 7. And so how many people in Johnson County are on the waiting list right now?
Right now, we have just over 900.
So we're adding to assist 45 additional, just very small number of that 900.
Yeah, through the 3 programs, the case management program is available for anyone who's on the waiting list with Medicaid, and so that's most of the people who are on our waiting list, so they can access case management. The behavioral health services, what we do, that's a unique program with Johnson County Mental Health, and we see a significant number of people who access that because they don't have other of the state waiver services. And then on the employment program, I believe the number was 36 of the 138 we have right now are on the state waiting list. So this provides those folks with an avenue to access a service right away instead of being on that 10-year waiting list. And hopefully being able to defer any need for longer-term services if their employment goals are successful.
I think this mental health behavioral team is needed. I've talked to you about it. We have families now who have are intellectual disability, also have behavioral health needs, so they, and this will help them with crisis support. It delays hospitalization, delays long-term residential care, helps them stabilize, works with the school systems. And how are you going to let people on the waiting list know about this behavioral health team?
We work with Johnson County Mental Health to make sure that people are aware of that. The requirements that we have are the people that access the service have to be eligible for both mental health and developmental disability services. So again, many times people have a case manager who would also be coordinating with this team. So that's typically how that happens.
Okay, Ms. Allen-Brand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The chairman and Commissioner Fass already stated some of the things I was going to talk about, but I have to say that, we look at this every year. I know your team does, and I have confidence in the county manager and her team to also help having parameters in place to check this budget. So I applaud you. This is muchly needed in Johnson County, and you have my support.
Ms. Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to your team and to our finance or budget team for looking at how to best utilize these extra funds in reserves to help address this waiting list. It would be unconscionable, in my mind, to not do this, just to keep the money in the reserves and not provide 5 years of service to people who are on a waiting list. To me, it's a no-brainer. So thank you, and I'm fully supportive of this action item.
Any other questions? Ms. O'Hara.
Michael wants to speak first.
No, I recognize you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry. Okay, well, there's no one on this board that is in opposition of addressing this need. In fact, when I was in the State House in 2011 and 2012, I actually attempted to address this problem at the state level. This has been an ongoing issue for years and years and years. My concern is that we don't have an overall plan as to how to do this. And it's not just this one. We take grant money and we add positions, and it multiplies. And I would just be far more comfortable if we had an overall plan as to how we're going to address these issues when the funding runs out. And that it's not just this one. I mean, multiple times we have had, well, we're going to add these positions, and we're going to add those positions, and the contracts are that if the funding runs out, then we're not going to continue the program. And it like builds the budget without a real comprehensive plan in place. And that's my concern. And I'm just coming from this wanting to make sure that the taxpayers of Johnson County understand what we are promising. And then the other thing, we're having a terrible time hiring people. I mean, how many positions do we have open?
The difficulty in hiring is in the direct support professional positions, and there are around 20 that are vacant. These are different positions. These aren't the ones that would be categorized with human resources as difficult to fill.
So are these people going to actually be providing services
Yes.
to this population?
Yes, they will, but they are specific services. So case management services, the behavioral health folks have a combination of mental health experience and developmental disability, and it's more of a niche service, I would say, and same with the competitive employment.
And this is going to be direct interaction with our clients?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Ishcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Von Felt, this has been discussed for many weeks, both with this board and with your governing board. Earlier on, there were conversations involving certain enhancements to your facility. Those have been removed to be considered separately with the CIP process countywide, if I understand correctly. And that's potentially a fairly significant expenditure, as I recall.
It was what was in the capital improvement plan was about 1.8 million for the Elmore Center. That's been removed from the CIP, and so that was one of the reasons it was removed from this request. And so we're not sure, because a piece of that is included in the overall county consideration of the strategic facilities master plan. So we're not certain at what point that will come back forward or what it will look like. And again, as we mentioned last week, the majority of what we do is people providing services for people. The Elmore Center is really the only building that we maintain with facilities. And so with that being out of the CIP, the focus on the positions is where we felt was most appropriate.
Fair enough, fair enough. Rhetoric aside, last week we talked about budget principles, and the first budget principle we recognized was to fund ongoing operating expenses with ongoing revenue sources. This seems to not be in alignment with that principle. Am I understanding that correctly?
If you're looking for the revenue for the positions to offset the expenses, that would be correct. I think the way that we have looked at this has been, this would have come to you all as a request for additional resources or an immediate action request regardless. And so we've viewed the reserve balance as a way to assist the financing of these positions over the first 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the positions are needed, and the opportunity for financing going forward is there. And I think the long-term planning of our budget process and factors involved are excellent, as demonstrated by the rating agencies, which give the county very high marks in that regard. And so as time passes and budget reviews are conducted, the end of 5 years, I'm sure, will be addressed. Ms. O'Hara?
Thank you. I just want to remind the board that projections are projections. And last year, our projected expenditures for the county was supposed to go down to $969 million. And instead, our budget that has been recommended is $1.153 billion. And we were not supposed to hit that level until after 2026. So we really have to be extremely careful as how we go forward. There's not an argument that these services are needed. That's not the argument. It's how do we put together, how do we choose what we're going to spend our money on? How do we make sure that we are looking at an ongoing funding stream? These issues need to be just discussed in a very transparent way. What is this cost going to be to the county? Are we going to have to cut something else back? I mean, it's just like a family planning a budget. If you want to add an expenditure, then what are you going to cut back so that you can go forward? that, I have no argument about that these programs are necessary. I'm just very concerned about using temporary funding for permanent positions.
I would suggest that those decisions and those discussions have occurred in past budget considerations, and we have our first process this afternoon. So as our budget discussion takes place over the next couple of months, those questions can be answered. And I have no doubt at all that any concerns in that regard will be addressed. Is there anyone present who would like to speak to this item? All right, if not, it's back before the commission. A motion is in order. Ms. Hanslick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the JCDS Reserve Use Plan, including the creation of 7.5 FTE, and approve the reallocation and expenditure of fund balance reserves for FY 2022 for the Developmental Supports Fund in an amount not to exceed $700,000 for the first year of the plan.
Allen Brand, second.
Hanslick made the motion. Allen Brand seconded the motion to approve the request in regards to the Johnson County Developmental Supports for the additional FTEs as recommended. Any further questions or comments? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is a tough one. I think Mr. Von Ahnen and staff are attempting to do the right thing for the right reasons, and I can quibble in terms of programmatic impact, but I know his intentions are true, and I'm sure it will have a positive impact on that community. What I struggle with, Mr. Chairman, is whether or not we recognize the budget principle we discussed last week about ongoing operating expenditures with ongoing revenue sources. There's a gap here. Consequently, my vote will reflect that concern.
Well, I would suggest that, as I've stated before, as the budget process occurs over the next 4 or 5 years, those issues can be addressed and will be addressed. So I am confident of that. Ms. O'Hara.
Thank you. I echo Commissioner Ashcraft's comments, and my vote will also be reflecting it. Like I said, I worked at the state level to try to address this problem 10 years ago, and there was not the political will to do it at the state level. And I desperately want to help fund this, but not with reserves and not with acknowledging that we have an ongoing funding source.
Okay, thank you. No further questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Fast.
Aye.
Commissioner Myers.
Myers, aye.
Commissioner O'Hara.
No.
Commissioner Hanslick.
Hanslick, aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
No.
Commissioner Allenbrand.
Allen Brand, aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Eilert, aye. I have 5 votes in favor, 2 opposed, motion carried. Are there any other items on the agenda?
No, sir.
All right, we'll return to reports and communications. Ms. Post Oak Ferguson.
Chairman and Commissioners, good morning. First item is a notice of public hearing. We received notification that the City of Miriam will be conducting a public hearing on Monday, June 27th. The hearing is in regards to the proposed project plan for Project Area M located in the I-35 redevelopment district at the southwest corner of Shawnee Mission Parkway and Antioch Road in Miriam. A copy of the notice of the public hearing along with the resolution are attached. The next item, Juneteenth update. We are 1 month away from the Juneteenth holiday. Last year, Juneteenth became a federal holiday, and this year Johnson County is recognizing it as an organizational holiday. The county is holding the inaugural Juneteenth event Sunday, June 19th from 12 to 1:30 p.m. in the county square. This year, Johnson County is celebrating Juneteenth under the theme, Learn the Past, Change the Future. More information for this event and other events in the county can be found at jocogov.org/Juneteenth. Next, a Stepping Up initiative, a social media takeover. Johnson County has been asked and accepted to do a social media takeover for Council for State Governments, or CSG, on Wednesday, May 25th. A number of posts, up to 10 posts, will be made on CSG social media outlets in Johnson County social media accounts in support of the Stepping Up initiative. The posts will also highlight Johnson County's work over the last 7 years. And next, Terry Zenner Memorial Garden rededication. The rededication of the Terry Zenner Memorial Garden at the Recovery Place in Shawnee is scheduled for Friday, May 20th at 2 p.m. Terry was a Johnson County mental health staff member who passed away nearly 17 years ago in service to our community. The rededication will be an opportunity to honor Terry's life as part of Mental Health Awareness Month that is observed annually in May. More information is on the Facebook page honoring Terry Zenner, a rededication of Terry Zenner Memorial Garden. And so with that, Chairman, I'll stand for questions.
I simply want to add, Mrs. Zenner lost her life by serving our constituents in Johnson County, a very, very unfortunate circumstance, a client. So that it is a significant honor to remember her service. And so we'll look forward to that. Other questions? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Postoke-Ferguson, could you elaborate a little bit on what social media takeover, what is this exactly?
Okay, well, Jody Hansen, I think, oh, there she is. She's prepared to give you more information.
Thank you.
I'll let Jody.
Hi, good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. So a social media takeover will be for a part of the day on May 25th. It will appear as if Johnson County has taken over the social media of the Council of State Governments Justice Center. So we will be providing them all the content. They'll do a series of posts throughout the day where we'll feature programs such as our Stepping Up dashboard, our co-responder program, our reentry project, a lot of the collaboration we do with the Sheriff's Office, Department of Corrections, mental health. We won't really have their passwords. We won't really be the ones posting on their platforms. It will just appear that we've taken over, and they'll be highlighting us.
Is there another terminology when you say taking over, facilitating perhaps?
Yes, yeah. They in the biz they call it a social media takeover, where it seems like somebody else has sort of taken on your social media, and it's our chance to
Some
highlight
hot
ourselves.
words there. I understand better what you're trying to do. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Any other questions? Ms. O'Hara?
So what's the purpose of this?
Well, with May being Mental Health Awareness Month, they have invited, the Council of State Government Justice Center has invited some of the sites that they work with to just showcase the programming they're doing in their communities for mental health, criminal justice, how it all fits together. It's just an opportunity for their partners to get to highlight what we're doing on somebody else's social media platform. So other people who don't necessarily follow us will get to see some of the programs we're doing.
Okay, so it will be differentiated that you're putting this out, you're just posting it on their social media.
Right, they're going to be posting our content on their platforms, tagging us, so people who follow us can also see the post
Right.
throughout the day.
Yeah, I agree. I think takeover is a very interesting word. Okay, thank you.
Nothing threatening. It's just
Ms. Hensley?
what they call it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've been talking a lot about the Stepping Up initiative, and I'm not sure if everybody knows what that is. That is a national initiative to reduce the over-incarceration of people with mental illnesses, and Johnson County has been a leader in that program. So it's exciting that we have this opportunity to showcase and highlight what we are doing here in Johnson County, because we do have a lot of very impressive programs, from our problem-solving beds to our co-responders to having our Johnson County Mental Health Center in our jail, so that there is a seamless continuum of care when a person leaves incarceration. So we have a lot to be proud of. So I'm glad we'll have this opportunity to share that with other communities. Thank
Right,
you.
it's a national audience. People that follow this national organization's platforms will get to see it.
I would simply add that this initiative was developed by the National Association of Counties. And 7 years ago, I think we were the first county to move forward and adopt this. And So it has been very, very effective. A lot of people working on it. We have shared our information with other counties and on a regular basis. So it's an opportunity to share additional information with those who are interested. So, okay, we'll now turn to commission comments. Ms. Fast.
Yes, yesterday we had the Stormwater Management Committee approved updated policies and procedures or identifying all the homes in Johnson County that are in a floodplain. Friday with the Terry Zahner event means a lot to me. I've been in conversations with Matt, Terry's husband. He's coming up from Texas with his children. And thank you to staff. I've been working with staff for the past year. That garden had fallen to disarray, and that staff made that a priority. The water fountain was broken, the grass was dead. And so to really recognize her legacy and her life. So I'm really excited for that event on Friday.
Okay. Ms. Allenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner Fast, for saying that. Terry, early years, I had a licensed daycare in my home, and so she was part of that daycare, and she was a remarkable young lady. And again, this just shows the need for mental health and what we're doing, so I really appreciate that. We had a New Century groundbreaking. Very excited about that. We're supposed to provide over 3,500 temporary construction jobs. Over 150 million is what they're predicting in 15 years as approximate in salaries, and over 4,700 new jobs in the next 15 years. The other good news about this is also going to help with truck traffic because we have the planes and we also have trains. So that will help reduce some of that. So I'm excited about that. And if Mrs. Hansen's here, yesterday I participated in the Fatigue Fighter fitness program that you put on. I was not sure what I was going to get into or what I should wear to the Zoom meeting, but I want to applaud you and your team of people for having, not only did you talk about fitness, health and wellness, and I'm proud to be sitting here and to see the county be such leaders because we don't hear about what goes on behind the scenes and how well that this has worked with not only our insurance carrier, but how it's worked. So you've got me back on track again. So I want to applaud you. And if the commissioners don't listen to that every once in a while, you need to get on some of her Zoom meetings. Also, so I want to thank you.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Also, I attended some meetings with the Johnson County Fair Board, the City of Gardner, and we continue to work on.
No parade? Is that it?
Yeah, I don't know. There's some question about that, but there is going to be another with the Johnson County Fair and the Extension 4-H celebrity. So I'll be getting the dates to you, and I'm hoping you can all participate. The chairman really did a great job last year. Well, I'm not going to point you out, Myers, but. And then.
She said, "Great job, Jim."
And last night I missed the joint meeting of Johnson County Parks and Rec. And again, Commissioner Myers, the great job that you're doing as liaison on that board. They just have fun. And so that was nice to be there and to hear, and I'm not going to steal your thunder, but what great parks we have, so.
Okay, Mr. Ashcraft.
Nothing, sir.
Ms. Hanslick.
Thank you. Just briefly, I also want to acknowledge Terry Zahner's memory, and I'm planning to go to the rededication tomorrow. I was working at Safe Home at the time of her death, and it really just rocked everybody's sense of safety and made us rethink some of our protocols. Terry worked for Johnson County Mental Health and was doing a home visit when she was killed. So I think it's so important to remember her and her sacrifice. Also, just wanted to acknowledge the difficulties that that people are finding baby formula. And I was in conversation with our Department of Health and Environment this morning, and they are working with the state to try to expand the formulas, the brands which are allowed to be used through the WIC program. Unfortunately, WIC does not have a stock of formula or any privileged way to get formula for those clients needing it. So I will continue to watch that, but it's a problem across the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Chair. I just want everybody to remember that the goat that I showed last year was grand champion. So I was part of that process and very proud of it. First goat I've ever showed in my life. And
I think it had to do with the tie you wore.
Yeah. It was a very, very good learning experience. Yesterday, I attended a strategic planning retreat in Raymore, Missouri with the KCATA board, and very informative and an awful lot going on and a worthwhile day. Also, I attended the JCPRD meeting last night that Commissioner Allenbrand was referring to. And one of the things that I wanted to mention today was we had an administrative assistant, Mary Eads, and she received her 45-year pin.
Wow. Wow.
And so we are encouraging her to break records and to continue going. And I think she's planning on doing that. But I just thought that was outstanding, 45 years. I couldn't believe it. I also attended the New Century groundbreaking, which was a great event, and of course the governor was there, so you know it was a big deal. But very exciting to see that ground being broken, and some of you commissioners that have been on this board much longer than I know that that's been a long process, and something that I think is going to be extremely exciting for Johnson County.
Thank you. Ms. O'Hara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate Commissioner Myers bringing up Kansas City Area Transit Authority. I want to remind people that they have a plan in place, that they have stated that they have authority to come over to Kansas to use eminent domain to transfer private property to private developers, and that they would then issue conduit bonds that could exempt their projects, which would be high-rise apartment projects, and that they could be exempt from property taxes for up to 30 years. Anytime that there's a tax exemption, it shifts the burden of the property taxes onto the rest of our base. And we just really need to start acknowledging that. And then also, glad to see the development out in New Century. However, those buildings have a 75% tax incentive. They will only be paying 25% of their property taxes, and that they have a cap of 1.5% increase annually. Apartments, and in this year, existing apartments, they increased 21% in value. This is a huge issue, and we just need to understand that we need to be looking at this in a much more holistic way instead of picking and choosing winners and losers with the tax code. The other thing, fitness, health, and wellness, I applaud that, and I have been encouraging the health department for the past 15 months to really focus on that. Everyone knows that I am exercise. I love to exercise, and I understand how important it is to health, and that diet and supplements, how important that is all to the overall health, and that individuals need to take that responsibility. So I'm hoping that our health department will really start focusing on this instead of relying just on the vaccines and or other medical interventions that are not based on the individual's own, their own actions. I know that everybody can't do that, but those that can, they really need to take that seriously. The other thing is that I have mentioned for the past two meetings that I am very concerned about cities in Johnson County receiving county assistance road systems dollars if they are not in compliance with immigration, all federal immigration laws. I will be addressing this further in next week's meeting, and I just, those are the end of my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I would just simply note that our wellness program, which emphasizes exercise, eating correctly, have been in place for many years. I think going back, 10 years, 8 years, something like that, maybe longer. So we've, along with the Public Health Department, have encouraged our employees to participate in those programs. And there is an incentive for them to do so and in our healthcare cost. So we do have a committee of the whole meeting this afternoon at 1 p.m. to begin our budget discussions, and Aging and Human Services and other mental health and
Health and Human Services and Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec,
Library.
Library, JCDS, right. So that will be held in this hearing room, and it will also be broadcast as a committee of the whole. So anyone is welcome to come and view and/or watch us online. And with that, our agenda is concluded. So we are adjourned from our regular business session. We'll take a short break and come back for agenda review. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.